Every single week in AI, something new happens. And in this video, I want to cover a lot of these things, which I feel are the top ones in the last few days, so that you don't miss out on anything new and I don't have to create 10 different videos in one go. So SpaceX and Cursor are now working closely together to create world's best coding and knowledge work AI. The combination of Cursor's leading product and distribution to expert software engineers with SpaceX million H100 equivalent Colossus training supercomputer will allow us to build world's most useful models. Cursor has also given SpaceX the right to acquire Cursor later this year for $60 billion or pay $10 billion for our work together. This is an insane amount of money for a harness, which is what Cursor is. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. So see, let's be clear on what's going on here. There are two value centers right now as we are seeing in the world. First is AI labs, which are basically either creating models or helping create new models, right? Creating models means like Anthropic, OpenAI, Moonshot, the Kimi K2.6 lab, basically, Minimax. So all these labs are, AI labs in a way. The other labs, which are helping them create these AI providers. So they're providing synthetic data or reinforcement environments. So those are also I would consider them as AI labs. So this is one value center. The second value center is AI consumer. And this could be B2C, B2B, doesn't really matter. In AI consumer, we don't have a lot of billion-dollar products. We have a few billion-dollar products, but then we have a long chain of million-dollar products and hundreds of millions of dollars of product and so on. So Cursor is here, right? Now you might say that, hey Mehul, Cursor actually released their own model, which is Composer 2, right? Which was in headlines. I also created a video on that. I'll link it somewhere here so you can watch that. But if you actually look into this is actually one of the insights which was given to me by somebody else. He actually told me, and he's a founder of a big AI lab, which is helping people train, helping other AI labs train models. What he told me is that Cursor, a company like Cursor, has not really used or could not really use just the raw code that people are doing inside the models as a sort of a moat, right, for building a new model. Now, the reason for this is because if you look inside Cursor, the Composer 2 model, which is there. Now, granted that they have done a lot of work on top of it, but it's basically built on top of Kimi K2.6, right? Or K2.5, sorry. K2.6 is a newer release. K2.5 is what Composer 2 was built on top of. Now they have, of course, done a little bit of work on top of this model. But what they have not done is that they have not trained this model. And it's not about the funding part. It's just about that the models are so hard to train. You need data, you need access, you need a lot of things. You need a technical team and so on and so forth. So the real value for what SpaceX, I feel, is interested in is acquiring it for the consumers and for the product building capabilities. So consumer is definitely one. When I say consumer, I basically mean the number of people, hundreds of millions of developers which are already on Cursor, right? It's far more easy for you as a developer to see that, okay, I have to pay some amount in order to access AI. I will do that. Than you actually, going ahead and changing the complete habit. Now, I don't really know if 60 billion is justified as an amount, as an acquisition amount for this. It just sounds like a ridiculous number. But again, a lot of things are happening in the AI world. So we can't really, I don't really know, how do you justify or not justify a number like this? To me, it sounds a lot of money for something which has a world-class harness. I'm not denying Cursor is one of the best AI products out there and it has a lot of users as well. But 60 billion is more than what Elon paid for acquisition of Twitter, which had hundreds of millions of people who are also making financial decisions outside of just the tech domain, right? So there's a lot of scope of selling advertisements, subscriptions, which is what we are seeing now. It's basically a world townhouse, right? And Cursor is generally a niche product. Even the non-technical folks have picked their own products, right? So we have a lot of other products in the space like Orchids. I've done a video on them. We have Lovable, Replit, Emergent, all of these products as well, right? Which are more suitable for non-technical, non-savvy people. So Cursor, I feel, is still stuck into that range where people are, who are more comfortable with code editors and product, which I don't think is more than 50 million in today's world. like actual people who are comfortable with code. That is what I'm saying. In terms of number of developers, this is probably like a 10x figure who want to work with code but don't really want to see the coding which is there. I also came across this article where RuCode, which is an AI product which helps you write code and stuff, is also shutting down, right? So we are also seeing a consolidation here in the consumer layer. So we have like a bunch of these players like Cursor, for example, I just talked about. Google is also trying to enter the space with anti-gravity. I don't know, like I've not seen a lot of people talk about it a lot. So I don't know like how popular this is now. But we also have like harnesses from, frontier labs like Claude Code, Codex, which are like coming into picture as well, right? So RuCode was also one of these companies which has now apparently decided that they don't want to continue because they are shifting to something else. Now this is a blog post on Kilo Code, and interestingly, a lot of you in the audience actually know about Kilo. I've done a lot of videos. I did not know that Kilo started as a fork of Ru, and they've been contributing back upstream since their inception, and a lot of what Kilo does well today started with the work Ru shipped first. Now, one of the things which generally gets a little tricky is the cost of, for example, if you look at Ru also now, which is now unfortunately not there, but all of these harnesses that we see, including Cursor, Anti-Gravity, Claude Code, Codex, and let's just include VS Code plus Kilo AI. So all of these harnesses, generally what happens is that either you have to opt in for a subscription, like you have to go for a Claude Code, like $100 a month plan, and then you're sticking only to Claude Code, or you have to go with solutions like Cursor, where you're paying, yes, $20 per month, but the pricing is a little weird in terms of like the number of tokens that you're spending. Even with VS Code's original, GitHub Copilot, pricing is a little tricky because they also use like sort of multipliers, right? For example, recently they launched GPT 5.5, which has a 7.5x multiplier. Look at this, inside Copilot CLI, the GPT 5.5 model actually has a 7.5x multiplier on their pricing, right? So it's gonna cost, like if GPT 5.1 is costing you 1 unit, this is gonna cost you 7.5 times more per token, which is very brutal. So generally what I feel is that if you want to stay independent of these pricing fluctuations, variations, and different complex models, you should look into Kilo AI, which is also today's sponsor of the video, because the pricing model that Kilo follows is basically API pricing. So if you go ahead and create an account on, let's say, Anthropic, then go ahead and create an account on OpenAI, then you create it on Kimi K2.5 website, then you create it on DeepSeek, and you manage all these credentials. Instead of that, you can just create it on Kilo and use their extension inside VS Code to get the exact same AI experience, but only paying the price of the tokens that you are using as decided by the model provider. If you look inside Kilo Code extension, it fits very nicely inside your existing VS Code setup. It also has a CLI that you can use, and it has a bunch of free models as well if you want to start programming free of cost using AI, which is pretty nice. And that includes some of the XAI models as well. It includes a bunch of more helper things, including asking, debugging, and planning mode, which you will find in regular harnesses like Claude Code as well. The advantage here is that the number of models that you have is basically everything that you can possibly find in the market. You will find it on Kilo, and sometimes even early models which are not released, and sometimes they give like free access to those early models. That is also available on Kilo. In fact, I did one of the videos on a Chinese model codenamed Giga Potato sometime back, which is exclusively available only on Kilo. And if you're missing like Codex application or Claude Code desktop application, you can also open Agent Manager inside Kilo, where you can create these bunch of agents over here. You can keep sending the message, work in parallel. Everything happens actually inside VS Code, which is one of the best parts about it if you don't want to leave your IDE. You're going to find all the links to access Kilo AI in the description of the video below. Once again, thanks to Kilo AI for sponsoring this part of the video. And now back to the video. I would be lying if I don't say that GPT Images 2 released this week was one of the best releases that I have seen. This is such a good model. This has basically replaced Nano Banana Pro completely for me. And it's a model that is very, very good at instruction following. Let me give you a very simple example of how this works. Let's say I decide that this is gonna be, let's say, a portrait image, like small width but large height. I'm gonna give it a quality of high because we're gonna have a lot of text. And I'm gonna say, design me a full stack roadmap for 2026, including all the good technologies I should learn, right? I'm gonna give it an enter. and wait for it. But generally, more than the model itself, what I liked about is that this page is actually good. The layout is actually good. It makes you want to create more images and more variants, right? So as I'm waiting for a graphic, it'll take like probably a minute or so, I can go ahead and keep creating more things. So I can say probably, while I'm waiting for a full stack, why not just go ahead and create a front end roadmap as well? Why not just go ahead and create a back end roadmap as well, right? So it's just the way this UI works and the way this is built. I really like how this is built, and you can organize these photos. You can, just if you're creating like tens of different variants, you can just organize, put them together, group the ones you like, you don't like. I'm not going to say it's very super advanced or complicated layout. In fact, if you refresh this layout would be gone. But I just like the way this organization and this UI has been done by OpenAI, and especially like inside their playgrounds interface, right? So again, like this is not the primary way to use this. You can use this inside ChatGPT, which is how most people would use it. And you can also use this over API, which is again like how most businesses would use it. But this is like great way of working with images. And look at this. This is one of the results that it has just now apparently created. It took like its good amount of like 2.5-3 minutes. But this model is really good at creating text, right? We have seen that image models have generally struggled a lot with how text works. In fact, I had done a complete video on how video models work, which share a lot of similarities with how image generation models work as well. So you can watch that video. I'll link it somewhere here. That video actually goes into technical details of how image generation and video generation models work. But look at this. This model actually really knows how to write text. So it's giving us foundation and core skills of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Node.js, database, SQL, and Git and GitHub and all of that. Then it's giving us React, Node Express, Postgres, and Nginx, Redis, and a bunch of toolings. Then it's giving us Next.js, and Node remains same. Inside Node, there are just different topics. Then we have MongoDB, and then we have MongoDB and Postgres as well. Again, like I wouldn't say like this is like a proper roadmap, which I would suggest, because it's just mixing a lot of things together. Like you almost always don't need to learn 3 types of databases, especially with 2 different categories like NoSQL and SQL. When you're starting off, I would just suggest stick with SQL databases, but it's fine. Like, I mean, from an infographic point of view, when I've not given it any information, it's good enough. And then it has included like DSA, system design, OOP, networking, security, and all of these things as well. So pretty cool, right? So you can get this graphic printed. I mean, obviously not this one, but you can stick it on your wall and do things like that. It has also created like back-end roadmaps specifically. It has followed sort of like, if you look at this, it is following like more or less the same style across all the 3 roadmaps, but it can create these images, and this text makes sense. Most importantly, previously, if you would create such images, the text would either not make sense at all, or if it makes sense, it will be like gibberish here and there, right? Now it knows like how to actually write, which is a big deal. And of course, one more thing, that big thing that has happened this week is that DeepSeek has finally released another model after a long time. So DeepSeek has released V4 Preview and V4 Pro and Flash. I guess Preview is not a model, right? Yeah, just Pro and Flash are models. And if you look at this Pro model, it's a 1.6 trillion parameter with 50 billion active parameters. So this is like a mixture of experts model. And Flash is a slightly smaller model with smaller active parameters as well. I have done a video where I show you the differences and basically like competing between DeepSeek, Kimi, Opus, and GPT 5.5. So I will link that video again somewhere here. It's a good video. But again, this is something good, right? That now DeepSeek has released a model which, if you look at the benchmarks, has a lot of these benchmarks which are on par with GPT 5.4, or at least higher than the state-of-the-art model benchmarks, right? Which is pretty cool to see. Now, of course, like it's not true, because you will look at like a bunch of other numbers as well, which are lower and which are actually worse in DeepSeek. And as we also saw in that video, the comparison video I gave you the link for, a spoiler alert, but GPT 5.5 won in that video. We don't have that comparison because every single lab is confused. They are releasing the models so often, so quickly, that they are basically overlapping each other's release timeline. And what that effectively means is that these charts that we get are effectively incomplete. So that's pretty much it for the releases that we have this week, at least the big ones. Do let me know in the comments, what do you think? Which one is your favorite? So that's all for this video. Make sure you leave leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Do check out Kilo AI. All the links are in the description. And I'm gonna see you in the next video very soon. If you're still watching, make sure you leave a comment "I watched till the end" below to tell me that you were still here, and let me know what do you think about the video.